In this episode, we're going to talk about feminine and masculine energies. And we're going to be clearing up a lot of mix-ups because I'm going to read you some of the comments of people who really take it the wrong way and then just run with it, you know? So, energies are not tied to gender. They exist in all people in varying balances. And just like real quick to go over the basics, like masculine energy is about like action, structure, logic, the doing things, the doing aspects of people and people's psyches. Feminine energy is more about intuition, creativity, flow, and like the being, nurturing. Okay. And there's many misunderstandings. And I made this like, I think it was a 5-second or 7-second video about feminine masculine energy. About I was about to get home and just do and move and just sit in front of the TV and stare at the TV. And instead, I took a minute, I took care of myself, I took a bath. And people thought I was talking about like gender stereotypes things. It was so weird. Here's some of the comments I got. Weird things to gender, but okay, do you? You're still relying on gender stereotypes. It's backwards and it's weird. You should know better as a queer person. Now we're gendering basic human activities. I don't think these are masculine or feminine things, friend. I think it's a fast and slow mindset. Wow, what a terrible take. Calling showering masculine seems misogynistic to me. Those words didn't come out of my mouth. Masculine and feminine energy is made up, unfortunately. I couldn't agree less. That's fine. You don't have to. I thought I sensed something cringe about you. Okay. You're weird for posting this. Delete it and rethink your mindset. Masculine energy is nothing like this. Why are you gendering the quality of life? Weird as fuck. So those are just a few of the ones I got on the wrong side of the internet. A real judgmental, not, I don't know what kind of snowball it did, whatever. I was like, okay. It wasn't clear. Sometimes the point doesn't get all the way across to some people, and other people were responding like, oh, I never thought about thinking it this way. Thank you for the reminder. Thanks. So like, I look at the positive. I always look at the positive, but it did inspire me to like go down into this topic and to want to talk about it because it's important. It's an important topic, and feminine and masculine are not the only ways to express or describe these type of energies and things. And I think it's a really important topic for overall wholeness and like having a fulfilling life. So we're going to get into it. This podcast is for anyone who is in the process of becoming. I hope that whoever is meant to hear what I have to say is listening. But as always, all the cunts to the front. I'm going to unbutton the top part of my jeans. Okay. So yes, I want to talk about this topic, but I also want you to know like the purpose of like understanding this is much bigger than just knowing it's not like based on genders. It's to have a better understanding like of balancing energies throughout life for greater peace, for productivity, for better productivity and fulfillment in life, like I said earlier. So I want to get into like the different representations, the different names, and I also want to get into history just to let you know how long this type of representation has been in human history. Then we're going to talk about different thought leaders on the topic, and we're going to end with some like reflection and how to move forward. What questions to ask yourself to, if you want to improve your life, better improve your life. So representation and names. You also have yin and yang, the intuition versus logic, dark versus light, cycles versus structure, Shiva and Shakti. That's consciousness as structure and creativity as flow. Then we have sun and moon archetypes. So the sun, masculine, is more linear in time. It's like about the doing and the outward action. And the moon, feminine, about cycles, about intuition. It's more looking inward and thinking. I've talked about the animus before, and you have the animus and the anima. So it's mirroring yin and yang duality. Animus is about action, doing, assertiveness. The anima in the psyche, or in general, is about intuition, flow, creativity. And then you have like modern language, basically is the doing versus the being. Left brain versus right brain, action versus presence. So it's interesting how many people in the comments were like, I think you're just talking about productivity. I think this is what you really mean. I think this is what you mean. But the concept about feminine and masculine energy, the doing, the being, like these other words, everything that other people were saying in comments, it was kind of funny because I was like, that's exactly like you're just saying it in other words. That's what it is. So I realized that I think it needs to be talked about more. And I really want to go into the history because it's really interesting and it's obviously not all encompassing. This is not going to be a freaking 2 hour documentary. But I'm just going to go into how it's across the globe in different histories. And I will be using BCE and CE to describe common era as opposed to based on one type of usually religion is like AD or BC. So just know if I say BCE, that is before common era, also known as like before Christ. But I'm going to be using the scientific description, okay? So, some Chinese philosophy, like yin and yang, goes back to 3000 BCE. That's thousands of years in the making. Yin and yang is about the balance of nature. It's about feng shui. It's also in traditional medicine as well. And if you don't know, feng shui is about balancing spaces. So with yin, you use like soft lighting and curves, and with yang, you use strong shapes, bright colors, just as an example. Okay, so again, this dates back 3000 BCE. That's insane. And it was more formally recorded in 1000 BCE in the Zhou dynasty, and it expanded to, I think, like 800 BCE. Then you have Indian philosophy, okay? We're talking about Ayurvedic alignment. What is Ayurveda? It's aligning doshas, energetic balances, to integrate masculine and feminine energies or qualities. But Shiva and Shakti both, like Shakti, feminine energy, Shiva, masculine energy, are both integral in Hinduism and is still central to a lot, if not all, spiritual practices today. It's also rooted in Vedic tradition, which goes back to 1500 BCE, and the earliest texts show up in Tantric and Upanishads in 500 CE. So we're on different continents all over the globe, okay? Then you have Native American or indigenous traditions, sun and moon rituals. And those are ceremonies honoring the balances in nature, the natural flow. They have oral traditions and also evidence of spiritual practices dating as early as 10,000 BCE. That's wild. That's amazing to me. So, sun is a representation of the masculine, the moon is the representation of the feminine, and the symbolism is present in various tribes. So, the masculine, again, is like the sun, it's linear time, it's action. Feminine is the moon, there's cycles, there's intuition. And when I was researching, I actually found that they had structured rituals in the Mississippian period at 800 CE, Common Era, or AD. And there was something called the Cahokia Woodhenge, which was about life cycles and solar calendars. So I thought that was pretty cool. The next one I'm going to talk about, I actually didn't even know until I was doing research. There was actually a lot of representation in West African spirituality. I never heard of Oshun and Ogun before. So Oshun is a feminine energy, creativity. Ogun is masculine, more about strength. Oshun is also about fertility, rivers, nurturing, love. Ogun is more about iron, war, strength, power. That's what I found when I was doing the research. And the balance between the two is expressed in music, dance, and oral traditions. And it goes back 6000 BCE or earlier, which I thought was wild. There's a Yoruba tradition going back to 1000 Common Era CE that highlights the complementary energies together. And the Yoruba traditions didn't just stay in West Africa, they actually expanded to Caribbean nations and South American countries, which I thought was really cool. Next is my favorites that I've gone over this year, a lot of Aztec goddesses, but Mayan and Aztec practices. So you have the Mayan practices and goddesses and feminine and masculine energies. So this is dating back 200 to 1500 CE, Common Era. Now these gods and goddesses have a few different versions of their names, and I might butcher the ones that I am giving. So please be gentle with me if you know better. You have the feminine energies are represented by Ixchel goddess and Chen or Chin goddess, which they represent moon, nurturing, creativity, reflection, cycles, magic, maize, mice, corn. And then the masculine energies are represented by the sun god and Bacab gods associated with strength, sexuality, and vitality. Now, I love this Aztec god Ometeotl, 1300 Common Era. So, this Aztec god is actually an embodiment of both feminine and masculine energy. And quite literally, this god is made up of two Ometecutli, and representing the masculine aspect, and Omecihuatl, representing the feminine aspect. So it's a unity of opposites. That's what Ometeotl is about, the dual god of creation, light, dark, life, death. And it's about balancing action and intuition. I really thought it was an amazing representation of Aztec worldview of balance and this beautiful interconnectedness of the cosmos. I thought that was beautiful when I was looking it up. So then we get into Western psychology, the anima and animus. We're looking at 1900s, early 1900s, 1910s, 1930s, and Carl Jung. And the concepts that he talks about, that he shares, are all actually influenced by ancient archetypes and myths. The anima and animus are tools for balancing the psyche through self awareness and integration. And just this year, I learned about the animus of the psyche, and I learned through reading Women Who Run with the Wolves. I'm actually about to talk about her next because we're going to get into thought leaders and modern perspectives. I also just want to say, I want to share these thought leaders, these people, for two reasons. One, to let you know that this is not new. None of this is new. And two, just to expand your own knowledge on your own time with all the options and people that I'm going to talk about. So I'm not going to go super in depth to these people and their careers. I'm just going to give a quick who they are, what do they promote or represent in their work. Okay. So first, my favorite, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes Reyes. Let's talk about her. So she talks about reclaiming the wild feminine intuition and being intact with your instincts, your knowing, and having an intact animus. She's the one who taught me about that. Then, like we just mentioned, Carl Jung, who talks about the internal balance of the anima and animus within the psyche. I love. Next is Esther Hicks, or Esther Abraham Hicks through Esther Hicks, who shares about balancing action. It is all about manifestation. It is all about the law of attraction. They wrote a book on it, literally. That author, they share about balancing the action, the masculine, and the alignment, the feminine, in manifestation. That's what they're all about. That's where I got my stream of consciousness, good feeling flows inspiration from, is Esther Hicks, or Abraham through Esther Hicks. Then we have author and yoga practitioner Catherine E. Livingston, who emphasizes the integration of strength and softness, or action and receptivity, as essential components of a fulfilling life. So she shares, but also we know, in many practices, yoga is a tool for that, to harmonize both of those energies within self. Then you have author David Deidre, who shares a lot about how to better relationships and personal growth through the balance and working with both the feminine and masculine energies within self, within relationships, and so on. Then we have writer Lauren Valdez. And what I think is really interesting about her is that she promotes self-awareness and integration of the feminine energy, specifically into professional life. And I just think that's fascinating because I lived in my masculine energy for years, which is why I ignored my intuition for many of those years as well. But the more I bring in my feminine knowing, intuition, and then matching that with my masculine of taking action in my professional life, the better it gets and the happier I am. So I found her, honestly, and I'm excited to look into her work, because she highlights the need for a balanced approach to productivity that values both energies, and I'm here for that. And then you have the amazing Eckhart Tolle, who shares about being versus doing as a key to presence. And he talks about integrating these energies for spiritual growth. And there's a quote here that I have. He said, "Presence is the power of the feminine, and action is the gift of the masculine." And I think that just ties it up in a nice little bow, doesn't it? Lastly, I want to mention this author and empowerment coach, Shani J. So she explores how the imbalance between the feminine and masculine energies can impact well-being, and how there's a necessity for both for structure and flow. So what do these look like in everyday life, in real life? Before I get into some examples and questions I created to like just have the average person reflect on their energies, I do want to acknowledge that every human being is different and both like action and being can come in different sizes and different shapes for every person. Okay. I know that it's relative. So if you know exactly what you're doing, great. This part's not for you. no, no problem. I just have a short list or a short share to maybe make people think, look inward, and maybe inspire a little bit of action or being into their lives. So, what can feminine energy look like? What can it look like? It can look like meditation, mindfulness, that reflection. That's feminine energy. The connecting with the intuition. This can be creative expression, journaling, a new hobby, or starting multiple fucking hobbies and just like choosing one and having no shame or guilt about quitting 5 other ones. That's fine. That's allowed. Maybe consider spending time in nature to acknowledge and embrace cycles and natural flow. I also thought of this because I just did my like period episode. If you have a 24-hour hormone cycle like most men do, maybe look at what that is to you. Like look into your cycle. Same thing goes for if you have a uterus or you have a hormone cycle that's 28 to 32 days. Maybe invest some time learning more about your own cycle. If you want to, you can watch my period 101 what the fuck episode. My life is changing drastically because I'm listening to the different seasons, the 4 seasons of my cycle, and it's pretty magical. What can masculine energy look like? The animus, the doing, right? You can set small, achievable goals and create routines. You can take deliberate and decisive action toward a project or a goal or set up an outline to do it. You can practice discipline through habits like time management or exercise or moving your body on a regular basis. And something clicked for me earlier. I think something really simple to represent both of these energies is like having reflection on what your intuition is telling you. That's the feminine energy. And the masculine energy is acting on that intuition, is like saying the no or saying, yes, this is for me. Like whether it's like a job opportunity or hanging out with a friend or leaving the house tonight or like all these different things. You know what I mean? I think it can be like, that's a simple example for me or for the average person. I feel like that feels good. So, what about balancing the two? These energies are universal and timeless, and they have been around for thousands of years, as we now know, and they're still important and integrated in so many practices and in everyday life. I think this is like a beautiful topic to talk about, which is why I made this podcast episode. So I have a couple thoughts and questions for you to do your own empowering reflection, okay? Maybe you can use it to create your like unique to you recipe of what the hell balance looks like for you, like balance of these energies, okay? Maybe ask yourself, how often do I trust my intuition when making decisions? And what happens when I ignore it? I had a few years of ignoring it, so don't feel bad if you've done that before. Ask yourself, do I feel cheated from one side, like one energetic side? For example, are you always checking off like discipline boxes without resting or nurturing yourself? What does it look like for you to honor both energies? Ask yourself, when do I feel most alive and creative? Ask yourself, when do I feel most productive and in control? What does that look like for me? What are the feelings you feel? What are the thoughts you feel? What physically is going on maybe with you? Maybe have daily or weekly check-ins with yourself about what feels good, what feels off, and what energies you need to pull from to balance it out. Also, maybe consider like walking and voice recording these thoughts to yourself or journaling about it. That usually helps me. I know that journaling's not for everybody though, but here's another question. Are you leaning too much into one energy? And what does it look like to bring the other in? Maybe ask yourself if you even recognize when you're unbalanced, or does your body tell you before your heart or your gut does? Another question to ask yourself, do I allow myself to embrace creativity and flow even when it doesn't have a clear purpose or outcome? Ooh, that was a good one. And another one is just something to ask yourself, what small steps can I take today to harmonize being and doing in my daily routine? I want to take a moment to remind you or just tell you outright that this is not about perfection. This is not about adding one more thing to do right in your life because I can't personally either. It's about getting curious and learning more about yourself or maybe teaching yourself about what you need. It's about feeling harmony as much as possible. And I don't know about everybody else, but I'm very human and there was a whole pack of years where I don't even think that word, like the word harmony was even on my radar or probably didn't even come out of my mouth. Um but it feels good to try. Trying is cool. I don't know when people started making fun of other people for doing things badly, but that's how you get good at things. So, if anything worth doing well is worth fucking up first. Like you have to do it bad in order to do it well. That's how you learn fucking everything in life. So I guess I'm encouraging you to go and fuck up and get better and fuck up a little less and get better and fuck up and then reflect on fucking up. I don't know. I did just have a thought. I mean, honestly, the intention behind why I'm a creator and the fact that I share about healing from trauma and healing from abuse and encouraging people to have clear communication and boundaries. Like they're all reasons because I want people to live better lives and to not feel alone. And I guess I also like remember how bad it was feeling alone and being in a dark place and having like a near soul death and the light not being in my eyes or in my heart. And I just want to do my part in, I guess, helping people feel whole because I feel more whole and it feels really good. And I'm, I'm at And this is the most peace I've ever felt in my life and the happiest I felt in my life and the most I've liked myself and like my eyes and my reflection of the mirror and the most I like what I'm looking at when I look in the mirror, like into myself, into my eyes is what I mean. So, people deserve to be happy and feel whole, even if it's not all day, every single day, because real humans, the odds are that won't happen all day, every day, but most of the day, and for most days, that's possible, and fucking everybody deserves it. Cheers. Okay. Got emotional, and I love myself.